The black woman stood at the end of the glass boardroom table and extended her hand politely. The chairwoman looked at it, smirked, and said, "We don't hand power to people like you." A few executives laughed quietly. Someone near the back muttered, "This should be interesting." But nobody in that room knew one thing. The woman they had just humiliated already owned 51% of the company. And before the meeting ended, every person laughing would be unemployed. Rain rolled down the windows of the 62nd floor boardroom overlooking Manhattan. Inside Argent Global headquarters, silence carried more weight than conversation. 12 executives sat around a black marble conference table worth more than most homes. At the head sat Eleanor Whitmore, chairwoman, media icon, Wall Street royalty, the woman famous for destroying competitors with a smile. Across from her sat Naomi Kane, young, calm, perfectly composed, the black founder of Kane Ventures, the woman Eleanor publicly called an inspirational diversity success story. But privately, she hated her, because Naomi had done in 6 years what took Eleanor 30. And today's merger would officially place Naomi beside her as equal partner. Eleanor couldn't allow that. Not emotionally, not publicly, not in front of investors. Cameras live-streamed the meeting worldwide. Investors watched from London, Dubai, Singapore, and New York. Everything looked polished, professional, historic. Then Naomi stood and extended her hand. "Looking forward to building together." Eleanor stared at the hand, then leaned back slowly. "We don't hand power to people like you." Silence. A few uncomfortable laughs slipped out. One executive looked down immediately. Another smirked into his coffee cup. The live-stream chat exploded instantly. Naomi's hand remained in the air for one quiet second. Then she lowered it carefully. No anger, no embarrassment, just stillness. "Understood," she said softly, and somehow that calmness made the room even more uncomfortable. Eleanor smiled proudly. "Now that expectations are clear, shall we continue?" The presentation resumed, but Eleanor kept pushing harder, interrupting Naomi, correcting her projections, mocking her age, questioning her credentials. At one point she laughed and said, "Some people confuse visibility with value." The men around the table chuckled obediently. Naomi simply took notes, every insult, every face, every laugh. At exactly 2:43 p.m., Naomi excused herself briefly. She stepped into the hallway, pulled out her phone, and made one call. Trigger, phase 2. That was all she said. Inside the boardroom, everything still looked normal, until phones started vibrating. One by one, executives checked emails, then froze. A senior board member stood up suddenly. "What the hell is this?" The room shifted. Fast. The company's stock had dropped 11% in less than 60 seconds. Major investors were pulling out. Emergency sell-offs triggered automatically. News alerts exploded across financial media. Argent Global under internal investigation. Eleanor frowned. What investigation? Then the screen at the end of the room changed. Naomi had connected her tablet to the boardroom display. A legal document appeared. Signed. Certified. Executed 2 months earlier. The room went dead silent. Naomi looked directly at Eleanor. "You should read the acquisition terms more carefully." Eleanor's face changed. "What acquisition?" Naomi clicked the next slide. Ventures, majority shareholder, 51%, effective immediately. The room erupted. "That's impossible. When did this happen?" "You sold controlling interest." Several executives turned toward Eleanor in panic, because she hadn't known. Naomi had quietly purchased the shares through shell partnerships after rescuing the company from hidden debt months earlier. Eleanor had been too arrogant to notice who saved her empire, and now she no longer controlled it. Naomi walked slowly around the table, calm, precise, dangerously composed. "You spent this entire meeting trying to prove I didn't belong here." She paused beside Eleanor. "But while you were protecting your ego, I bought your board." Complete silence. Eleanor stood up violently. "You planned this." "No," Naomi replied. "You planned this the moment you believed disrespect had no cost." Then came the second blow. Naomi pressed one final button. The live stream replayed the handshake rejection, over and over. Every investor watching worldwide saw it again in perfect clarity. The smirk, the insult, the laughter. And beside it, live market losses. Million disappearing by the second. One executive whispered, "Oh my God." Another removed his glasses entirely. PR teams began calling non-stop. Sponsors withdrew publicly. Three major partners contracts before the meeting even ended. Eleanor looked around desperately. Do something! Nobody moved, because power had already shifted. Then Naomi delivered the line that would go viral across the world. Respect isn't charity. It's intelligence. The room stayed frozen. Naomi gathered her files calmly, then looked at the board members. As majority owner, I'll be restructuring leadership immediately. Several executives lowered their heads. One quietly asked, "Does this mean she's fired?" Naomi looked directly at Eleanor. No. It means she finally understands how people feel when power is used to humiliate instead of build. Eleanor's hands trembled. For the first time in years, she had no control, no room, no audience, no empire, only consequences. Naomi turned toward the cameras one last time and walked out while investors around the world watched in silence. By morning, Argent Global lost 38% market value. Eleanor Whitmore resigned. Business schools studied the collapse for years. But online, people remembered something. Not the billions, not the acquisition, not the stock crash. They remembered the hand she refused to shake. Because sometimes, the most expensive mistake a person can make is underestimating someone they already needed. If respect mattered to you more than status, drop your thoughts below and subscribe for more powerful emotional storytelling.